Hello, and welcome to Right to Be Wrong, the show that revives the art of conversation, accommodating varied views on sports, culture, politics, world events, and every topic under the sun. After all, you have a right to be wrong. Here are your hosts, Dave and Tony.
Tone, it's that time of the week. I'm literally going to take an hour to prove to our listeners that I am friends with an idiot.
Please, can we make it less than an hour? This is painful, Dave.
You want that 55 minutes?
This is really dragging on. Let's round it down to 50. I can do 50 of your dribble.
Should we turn our podcast into like the 2020 of podcasts?
The 2020 of podcasts?
Yeah. So what we do is that we come in, 10-minute topics, 5 minutes each.
Yes.
Bang, bang, bang. Make your argument and done.
I was trying to think of a concept that could align to like a 40-20 of podcast.
Hopefully I get the 40. But what are we going to embrace tonight in a very...
we are talking tonight, Dave, about the next Prime Minister of Australia.
Oh, that must be Pauline Hanson.
Long may they say, God save the Queen.
Because nothing will save the Governor-General.
Anthony Albanese.
Well, I think, the first thing is, I'm going to call this podcast One Nation, Prime Minister Pauline, ? Now, straight off the bat, to be technical, she couldn't be because she's a senator and you have to come out of the lower house. And
she's cluey enough to know, I'm not going to risk my political future, even though it's going to go a short runway because she's the wrong side of 70. I'm not going to risk my political future and run in a lower house seat when I've got a guaranteed Senate seat.
100%. And to be honest, if I was working for One Nation as a strategist, it wouldn't be something I'd want anyway.
No.
I think this is the moment that One Nation, the opportunity they have to throw off the shackles and the people that think they're the KKK. Now, there's no denying there are racists that are attracted to the party, but you can make that argument across, the Liberals, Nationals anyway.
Yep.
And I don't think you and I have had this conversation before. The amount of Sieg Heil, Nazis in this country is, you can count them on sort of, two hands, maybe a few times. But I think this is the point that perception of One Nation, they have an opportunity now to go and target a handful of smart operators that can articulate policy better than what Pauline can. Focus on energy, focus on immigration, focus on housing, both mortgage and rent. Just those three things. And, don't have an ego about people that are going to come in off the back of your 20 years, 25 years that she's put in and add the polish to One Nation, because you'll miss the opportunity to become the actual second political party in the country.
I agree. My concern is, Dave, that like with most politicians, just the egos are too big, mate, and their love of power is all-consuming. If Pauline Hanson was genuinely committed to the principles of One Nation and the One Nation party was bigger than her and bigger than her success, then she would release the reins to someone else, and not Barnaby Joyce because he's a dick.
No,
right?
It's not Barnaby.
It needs to be someone
that
polished,
is not
right, in the political sphere, right? And because if you look at all the polling at the moment, One Nation's actually taking votes a bit off Labor, more off the LNP, right? Because of their kerfuffles, and now they've merged again. That they split, now they're back. They're split, they're back again. But if they could just get a clear message on, and I use this word specifically, population and not migration, because One Nation historically will go after migration as an issue. If you want to make it broader and more appealing and then less divisive, talk about population, what it needs to be, why it needs to be that number, how we're going to fund it, and how we're going to make sure that as we grow or as we stay the same, that living standards actually improve and don't decline. Because the generations left behind, the two generations after us, Dave, they don't have the same opportunity. They've got no chance, right? And they've got to prosecute these arguments, and they will get 15, 20, 25 lower house seats and reshape politics. And the two main parties, specifically the current government, they've got no one else to blame because they've been radio silence on the issues that people are annoyed about. People are not, generally speaking, there are some rednecks who, get rid of all this, get rid of all that. But fundamentally, people are annoyed about no clear direction in terms of how we're going to manage population and making sure that our next generation's got the same opportunity as us, and they haven't, and they had the shit kicked out of them. And if they can prosecute those arguments, Dave, they are going to do really, really well. My concern is, does Pauline have it in her to give up power and just become a figurehead, right? Potentially rename and bring in some people from outside the political sphere to come in and sell that narrative?
I'll start with actually saying, and I mean this seriously, this is one of those moments, and this is why I love having conversations. You've just taught me something there, because migration is an issue, and I haven't heard anyone say actually discuss population, not migration, and I understand exactly what you mean. It completely frames the whole thing differently, and it's not to say you don't discuss the number of people coming in per year that are faster than infrastructure, but it changes it from the perception of you're worried about skin color and eye shape.
That's right. We're not. We're worried.
You're worried about having enough sausages for everyone coming to the party.
That's right.
So, like, seriously, that's. I hope anyone listening politically, that's very, very smart.
If they just because the easy target is, the lowest rung on the ladder is, let's go after migration. All they got to do is slightly pivot, because it's the same outcome, Dave.
Oh, all you have to say is, I'm not talking about migration. We're talking about population. Right? Now, the smart people understand what's going on. Everyone else go, oh yeah, okay.
That's right.
And that's actually brilliant.
And we're not talking about X, Y, Z.
Don't give that to your Labor mates.
No, and it's not that at all, Dave, because I was actually in a conversation today on X, and I said it to this bloke who actually, and he like you, is a bit different to me politically, but both largely in the centre. And he made some great points. But that population one, I quoted to him, I said, just take away the stigma, especially One Nation, their history. And I've got a list of things that they've been involved in and some of the controversies that Pauline's been involved in, that in 96 we're going to be swamped by Asians.
She was right.
In 2017, there was some couple of stunts. There was the illegal donations. There was some of the burqa issue in the Senate. I get it all. It's divisive, right? She's given herself a platform, but now they've got to turn it into real policy, because I only hope, Dave, that someone in that mix, if they get a temperature of the people and the people in Australia, that cohort who want to vote for them, they should be able to quickly summarise that they've got an opportunity here to be the opposition.
Correct. Right? And to your point, I think the first thing to it is she needs to make sure that there's no ego, and she accepts it's her party.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're not going to be the leader as far as be a prime minister. You probably shouldn't be the spokesperson, because I saw her again the other day. And the other thing I noticed with Pauline, people say she gets emotional. We all get emotional. The difference is, what I see with her is, listening the other day, is she was getting questioned, and they weren't questioning her. It wasn't an attack on her. It was a question on the benefit to the party and the opportunity, right? But she was getting emotional and thought she was getting attacked. So I think they need someone that can – the emotion is there when you're passionate about what you believe in the policy, but you're not emotional in the sense of that you're starting to look like that you're not fit for the role. So I think, one, you're spot on. Pauline needs to find someone that's the face. Number two, if that means a rebadge of the party, and I think I've been thinking about that one a lot, because One Nation obviously has brand recognition, right? Now, whether that's bad brand, good brand, irrelevant, you have brand recognition. You know, I'd love to be at the point where the Right to Be Wrong podcast, people just R2BW, right? You got that brand recognition. So I think if they did something like Reform Nation or whatnot, the other thing I'd be doing if I was Pauline and the leadership group of One Nation at the moment, I'd be reaching out to Farage and Trump. And not to say I want Trumpian Faragean policy. What is it that you see that we're not doing that resonates with the middle class, that understand we're not here to round up everyone that's not white and wide-eyed and send them off? We're here to say what we want are policies that make an affordable, safe and secure life for everyone. Now, off the back of that today, only 3 hours ago, talking to one of my friends, or she's more sister to me than friend. We studied together, we worked together at UCID. She's Australian-born, Indian background. And she said she's getting sick of people asking her what she is, because she's brown. She's like, I'm Australian. She says, I'm born here, love the place. And I said to her, listen, in your life, you're 34 now, coming up 34. I said, all honesty, how many genuine racist comments, and I mean with intent, someone calling you a curry muncher with intent, trying to hurt you if you had, and she goes, I couldn't even count on one hand. She said, however, if someone said to me today, go back to where you're from, she goes, I'd love to answer and go, yeah, I'd love to go back to 1990 Australia because it was a better place. So this is someone that she's married, young, no kids, 2 good incomes, highly educated, and she's even talking about we're looking at getting out of Sydney. We're like, what's going on? The Australian dream. She said to me, the Australian dream doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
And like, wow, right? This is first generation Indian, like everything going for them. And the reason why that resonated with me was because sometimes I think when you and I have conversations, I go home and I think to myself, am I just a grumpy old man? Now, the answer in part is yes.
Yeah, the other day at work, I was going to share this. Let's get back to that. The other day at work, I was pissed off about something, and I said to my coworker, I said, Jen, I'm going outside to be the angry man yelling at the clouds. I went outside, Dave. There were no fucking clouds.
It just wasn't your day.
Can you believe it? Made me more angry.
Well, to me, so these sorts of things are reaffirming to me that there is a genuine issue here that we need to fix. If One Nation are smart about it, they'll focus on those issues beyond what probably essentially created One Nation, which was migration, and that was it. They need to talk energy policy in particular. So for me, like, and I don't expect this to happen, but I'd be talking to the Josh Frydenbergs, I'd be talking to the Angus Taylors, I'd be talking to the Andrew Hasties, start some smart people that, okay, look, let's work together. You can help us polish these rough edges because we have enough common ground. Because the center to the center right is so splintered with a shooters party, a family first party, a Christian party. And if you all sat down on a piece of paper and wrote down what you want, 98% of the stuff is the same, but they're so splintered that the left keeps getting in. And let me clarify for people here. I'll put shit on people all day long for fun. But a healthy society has a healthy centre-left to centre-right. And if I lay out my positions fiscally, they're likely to be more to the right. And if I lay out my social positions, they're likely to be more to the left. So all of us have a bit of both. So at the moment, I think the problem we have is when we talk left, it's far left.
Yeah, so my concern, if the current polls are reflecting, because at the moment there's a bit of protest going on, right? We're done. Interest rates are up again. Energy prices, can't afford housing, too much demand, not enough supply. I apply for rent for a 3-bedroom unit somewhere and there's 400 people lined up. People are pissed off, right? Yeah. And you see that through the numbers. Now, One Nation, I think, need to set realistic goals around what they want to do in the lower house. But my concern is that they're going to continue to fracture on the right because I actually think the NLP, and they've done this once before, they're going to try and outflank One Nation when it comes to some of that divisive stuff.
Yeah.
To kind of show their base, hey, listen.
You don't need that.
Yeah. One Nation, they eat red meat, but we eat the real red meat. You know what I mean? And I think that's dumb, right? Because all it's going to do is fracture them both. And you know who's going to win?
It'll be the same thing.
Actually, Labor will get an increased majority.
Yeah.
Because people will be going, we want none of that, right?
Correct.
That's why they need, if I was One Nation, I'd actually stay away from any type of discussion with the LNP as a party. But if you want to handpick some people out of there who you think would be a conservative voice and a polished view to get through some of your policies, it'd be a good thing to do. But again, I'm not quite sure if Pauline's ready to give it up yet, right? Because she built that party by herself, right? And I get it.
Sometimes you need to accept, right? You can build a company from nothing over years that goes from, turning over $50,000 a year to turning over $50 million a year, and you can be extremely proud. But if you want to take it into a publicly listed company that's turning over $500 billion a year, there comes a time where you have to give up your control and your leadership. Now, that doesn't mean it's not your baby, you're not the one that put it where it is, but it takes a big person to be able to do that, to be able to actually say it's time for someone else to move the ball forward on this one. Just on the talking to the LNP, one of the issues for me is at the moment, if they don't, like, they nearly need a 3-party coalition. If the Liberals, Nationals, One Nation, and all those peripheries, Fishers, they all got together and said, look, we are on the same page.
On 70% of issues.
More.
Cool,
I'd say more. And we get into – we can deal with the nuance after. This is where the left is better, and has probably always been better. And you see it with the Democrats in the US. Even if they think your 12-inch penis makes you the greatest 18-year-old female swimmer there's ever been, everyone will say it. Even though everyone in the background's going, oh, fucking no, this is an 80-20 issue. We're losing this. But in public, they're unified. They're better at being unified. They're better at a unified message. That works for you 99% of the time until you go too far. Zig Hale to the right and, transgender to the left. But I think there's still conversations to have with the party. Now, having said that, the other thing is, and Nigel Farage is seeing this in droves in the UK, as the Tories realise they're done and dusted, as Labor's realising they're done and dusted.
Starmer's, he's cooked. Done.
And in one of our episodes, I said 6 months ago.
I know, but even now, because he appointed that bloke as US ambassador as well.
Against the advice of his own internal security thing. But yeah, Gary laughed at me again when I predicted that one, and that's coming true, which will be a whole, well, I'll do it now. Post-US election, we went through, I want to know how Gary and I had access to the same information and he was so wrong and I could nail it to the Electoral College vote. I said, I'm not a political analyst. I'm just a guy that enjoys it. I changed my position. I am not a paid political analyst because the more I see of what's going on, I think, hang on, I'm not the most intelligent guy in the room, but obviously I'm gathering the right information from the right sources broadly enough that if I can tell you 6 months ago, actually it was probably 12 months ago, Starmer won't last and he's gone, he's out. I can predict Trump. It's an information thing, right? It's not Nostradamus.
Yeah.
So that's on that. But just getting back to that, what reminded me is because even some of the Labor Party in the UK, at the end of the day, sadly, politicians are politicians and they want to save their own skin. If they think they can hold their seat by jumping parties, they do it. And I heard someone ask Nigel Farage, he said, aren't you worried about the Toryfication of reform? Because all of a sudden all these Tories are wanting to defect. And it was Paul Murray that actually asked him, what advice on this would you have for Pauline, for those that are starting to contact her? And he said, well, if they're contacting you to save their own skins, you just block them. So, but if they're contacting you because you can see they've held certain positions that align with yours, or maybe they were wrong and they've publicly admitted I was wrong on policy X and they genuinely want to be part of a solution, that's when you take them out of the party. And I thought that's very true because one of the through lines of the problems between the US, UK, Canada, Australia, we've got way too many people who are in politics simply for themselves, not as a public servant.
But that's a broader issue then.
Yeah.
So
that's a whole episode in itself.
We're talking about the bubbling up of One Nation and the fracturing of the Australian politic and the increasingly divisive nature of politics in Australia. But as a general rule, I lack significant there's a significant amount of confidence that I lack in the Parliament. Government is responsible to Parliament. Parliament is responsible to the people, right? And Parliament over the last 20 years has let us down badly.
Extremely.
Right? And then you see what's going on in the US around.
But there's a whole class of people who've let us down that are interlinked,
yeah.
Which particularly our bureaucracies, our higher education, our Parliament, because often they're intertwined.
That's right.
Think tanks, and where do we get advice? Oh, this uni advises on policy X. This think tank advises
I know
bureaucracies.
There's two, and there'd be people on the left as well, but there's two members, both in the Senate. Yeah, both in the Senate. One's a Victorian senator. I'm not going to name them. One's a New South Wales senator who are in the coalition, who are worked in government, Institute of Public Affairs, which is a think tank for the right, flown into like a Senate seat. Right, I'm thinking to myself, and on both sides, there's people who have just lived their whole life in politics. Yep. Like our local, no, not your local member, my local member has been a lifelong politician.
I remember seeing this when I was at uni, and one of my mates at uni, I go to visit him one day on campus where he used to hang out all the time. And he says, "Oh, run for SRC with me, Student Representative Council." I'm like, "I'm not interested and don't want to." He goes, No, bro, we need better food on campus and we need some lockers. And I thought, oh, okay, that's actually pretty true. So anyway, we end up running and we romped it in. And we romped it in because him and I used to basically tutor a lot of the younger students pro bono or very cheap, right? So anyway, when I get in, what we found is him and I were the only two people that weren't affiliated with Young Labor, Young Liberals, Young Greens, right? We're the only two non-political guys. So it meant that they wanted me to be vice president of the student council. So I get elected unopposed. The following year I win again, elected unopposed. And then what happens is I get the scholarship to China. So I have to vacate the position. And when I say to the guys, I can't do it, I'm off to China, all of a sudden I'm getting a couple of the young ones coming in. Oh, Dave, it means so much if you endorse me I've always wanted to be a vice president of the student council. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Seriously? And that was an eye-opener for me because that's why I saw that's young Bill Shorten. That's young Albo. That's young ScoMo. It's like you people are so possessed by your own desire to hold a title and get somewhere. You give no fucks whatsoever about the civic service or wanting to take things forward. So one of the things, if I had a magic wand, I'd love to think we could do in Australia and anywhere in the world, Western world, would be you can't hold a portfolio that you have no experience in, just like with jobs, right? So you wouldn't take your car to a non-mechanic. You wouldn't go and see someone that's a gardener for your health advice. So why do we have a minister for police that's never walked a beat? A minister for health that hasn't been a nurse or a doctor, a minister for education that's never been in the classroom? I'd love to turn around and say, no, sorry, there's a minimum of 10 years. And it doesn't have to be a specific. I don't care if you taught PE in whatever. I don't care. Just you've done the job, right? You don't have to have made inspector in the police force. You don't have to have been a cardiovascular surgeon. What I want to see is you've worked in the area in which you now hold the portfolio so that when people sit in a room and tell you things within reason, for the most part, you know what's bullshit. You can see who's playing games for their fiefdom. You can see what's really going on because you know how it works.
So, Dave, when I inevitably take a position of power in Australian politics,
Zig Hale.
And I actually
sorry, you're Italian. El Duce.
That's right, El Duce. And I start up, I'm going to have a department of follicle management.
I'll be your head.
And I'll say, listen, I've got a guy who's worked 30 years in follicle management, and he will nail this portfolio.
Yeah, I'm coming up for 36 years.
He will nail this portfolio.
But see, it's funny you should say that because on a serious note, you've only got to look at, and this is going on around the world, but I'll talk in the Australian context. Look at how many barbershops are appearing like mushrooms all over Australia, and they're all Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
Now, I was speaking to someone from Albury, Wodonga, that was up. And she said 5 have opened up in the last year in Albury, Wodonga, right? The one in Bowen in far north Queensland, Middle East, and everywhere. Now, if this happened to be because all of a sudden it was fashionable to have a haircut once a week for men, or we had 5 million more men moving into Australia, you can understand the sudden increase in demand for that service. But there would be a distribution that would not be uniform. There'd be some Vietnamese guys, some Greek guys, some Australians, some Kiwis, but it's a network.
Yeah.
And this illegal tobacco stuff, and I can tell you as someone that can be your head of the follicle portfolio, the numbers don't add up. I've been in the game 36 years. I've owned my own business. I do have a bachelor's, a master's. I can do numbers. I can tell you when there's a 10-chair barbershop with 200 grand rent and a Westfields before anything, it's never going to break even if every chair is full every hour. So for me, this is the sort of thing. If you had someone from small business, they'd be telling your tax department, mate, line up your teams, and you'd be telling your police force, we need to talk to the Minister for Policing here because here's the link. Here's the number. I'll run through it for you on a whiteboard simply so you understand. And if I do it, if I sat down even now, did a whiteboard and gave people numbers, no one would walk into another Middle Eastern barbershop again because you go, they've got to be illegal tobacco, drugs, or they've not paid $1 in tax and something's going on.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's true.
so it does matter. Getting people with experience, you'd have people already before it even happened. You'd be right on it.
Absolutely. Can we talk, Dave? I want to talk about if One Nation is to get a bit of traction. We touched on this a bit earlier. Clearly, there's a whole policy platform around what we're going to call population.
I really like that.
Let's expand it a bit. So welfare and social.
I've been waiting a year for you to teach me something.
So welfare and social policy, and I'd actually expand that to include any political party in Australia who is not the government, who wants to talk about responsible fiscal budget repair and wants to get traction while still maintaining the integrity and the concept of what I think is actually originally a good program. We'll talk about the NDIS. And they talk about 100%. The NDIS in context of I actually think the concept of what it was there to do in its purest form was absolutely the right thing, and I still support it. The fact that it's been allowed to get out of control to the point where everyone's claiming there's dodgy operators, you don't know, there's plan managers, there's care managers, there's vans all over the streets with the NDIS funding on it. I'm going, what are we doing
stickers,
here?
I love NDIS.
Like, what are we solving for here? So again, that social welfare, NDIS support, that whole even Medicare. I'd look at Medicare. There's a fiscal repair there because the growth in the NDIS is not sustainable.
It's not, and let's start with firstly, the Mauritian Queen calls it the National Disability Insurance Scam. There's a lot of truth in that. You see the CFO in tone, listeners. Fiscal budgetary repair. He's getting very fancy. For you dumbasses like barbers, that just means trying to balance the books.
FBR.
I love it. The federal female body inspector. So Dave, guys, just on just on the scam stuff, it's getting out of control. Now, again, I agree with the concept of it, and the concept was meant to be for severe mental or physical disability for families that really struggled and needed some support. To me, it's not meant to be someone takes their carer on a cruise. It's not meant to be, there's two parents with two kids that are borderline self-diagnosed autistic, so now you don't work, you're on full-time carers pensions. Like, no, it's meant to be very severe handicaps that preclude a child from operating and functioning in a normal society, for people that are struggling financially under the burden and need some respite and some support. We had, sadly, over in Western Australia last week, there was murder-suicide. There was a husband and wife that killed their 15, 16-year-old sons, the two dogs and the cat. And apparently, so the story goes, the funding for NDIS was going to be withdrawn, and these two boys were apparently autistic and one nonverbal, or what we used to call mute, but people think you change the language and it fixes the problem. But anyway, now that, from all intents and purposes, on the outside to me, from what I read, they're the people that it was designed for, right? Because if your child is 16, or even if it's the youngest one at 14, 15, they can't speak, that's severe. So to me, this is sort of the poster child of the problem, because both parents weren't working, they were as carers. So I think that already sets up a problem, because then you're starting to say to people, you'll never have to work, all the money will come in. We shouldn't do that. One parent should have had a job. One parent can be a carer with some assistance. So I think that in and of itself was an issue. That's probably why when the parents found out they weren't going to be able to do it, they've lost their mind and gone silly. But the other thing is, if we didn't have people bullshitting that your kid is 0.1% autistic as diagnosed by your GP, who doesn't want to offend you, so just says yes, well, that dilutes the pool. So maybe we wouldn't have had to take the money away from these people in WA if all the people ripping it off and doing the wrong thing weren't doing those things.
I agree.
The other thing for me is sorry, Tone. The other thing for me too with this is I disagree with the way in which we fund or the way in which we set these things up with support. So, for example, I used to have clients, or I've still got clients, but one in particular that I'm thinking of. We used to have clients where they were on the spectrum, but they were capable of working. So they'd have jobs. It might be 30 hours a week. They just put the plastic forks in a box, right? But they could do that. They enjoyed doing it. They were happy. So what they would have is they'd have a carer, and there'd be 3 of them living in, say, a townhouse. We would have 3 8-hour shifts to care for them. So that's quite expensive. But if 2 of them went on holidays or someone would just go walkabout or off their family, we'd still have to have 3 people to cover the shifts. We'd also be paying a fortune because in today's dollars, $1,500 a week rent for a townhouse in Castle Hill. To me, what we should be doing to try and maximise the dollars is if you want to be part of it, that we have areas. So say imagine anywhere you want that's like a green bank, and we build a new university, a new hospitals, aged care facility, like everything that links together our new region, and we've got dorms. So they might take 2,000 people that are, in this situation. And by dorms, I'm not talking chain them up. They've got a nice sized bed. They've got their TV in their room. They've got a little kitchenette. But because they're in a dorm, it's not going to cost as much because the facility's in. We have a theatre there, but it caters to 2,000 people. There's a swimming pool. There's a gym. And it means that you're not paying $1,500 a week for 3, so $500 a room. It might be down to $350 for their dorm. So we're not maximising things. And then off the back of that, because you've got your uni, your health sciences, it's a teaching location for people that work in an NDI service and, all these sorts of things. We just don't do it. We just go, this is what we're going to do. Here's the money. You go live where you want. Send us the bill. The final thing I'll say on it is I do know someone that was mowing lawns, goes and does his first NDIS lawn, invoices them $75 because that's what took him an hour. He said it was a pretty small lawn. And they reject it and said, no, we have a minimum of 150. Like, this is insane.
I did it twice.
Yeah. But that's the insanity of things. To me, the other thing should happen is we clean this up. And I don't think the NDIS can be saved, mind you. I think under Medicare, we need to create a place for the people that are genuine, and it sits under that and then just shut down NDIS. So everyone that's genuinely severely autistic, Down syndrome, handicapped.
Absolutely.
Set it all up under Medicare. Here's the process, a proper process. No more GP said, no more semi-self-diagnosis, no more your carer goes on holidays with you, cruising around the world. Get back to here's it, second opinion, here's the severity, and here's the support we give to these people. And in some situations, that might be $1 million a year for one family. I have no issue with that. But we've got to get away from the bullshit that's going on.
Because it's blown out of control, right?
It's costing us more than Medicare. So we've got Medicare, 27 million people, and 600,000 on NDIS that's costing us more. It's bankrupting the country.
Yeah, and you see it everywhere. And there was a point when but this goes to Dave. You and I have spoken in the past about how when there's an issue now, firstly, increasingly parents like to manage outcomes, manage every outcome for their child, right? But when there's a problem, we are in Australia, and I'm not sure we're always like this, but we're conditioned to turn to government.
Too much.
So what we've done here with NDIS, it started here, as we've kind of increased the size of what goes in terms of the portfolio, it's just another way of people turning to government saying, fix my problem.
Well, to me...
And I remember 2 special needs kids at my school, at the public school growing up. And the reason I knew them quite well was because they were Italian heritage and my mum knew their mum. And they were in like a composite class. And I always thought to myself, the sacrifices that mother who was a single mum made to raise her kids, right? And there was no handouts back then. Oh, they might have got a bit, right? But literally had to solve for it on her own, right? Yeah. And the love that mum had for her kids, I just thought to myself, wow. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to go through that and has to be that hard for everyone. But at the moment, this sounds a bit harsh, Dave, but life's going to throw you some curveballs at times. And sometimes you've got to try and manage as best you can with the help that's on offer. But at the moment, we've just made what's on offer way too broad. And it's supporting people that I believe actually don't need support.
Well, I'm going to create some hate mail here.
Uh-oh.
For me, the through line in how we got to mummy and daddy government and everything's how you feel and, we can't say no. And this runs through everything from education where finally now I'm seeing articles on grade inflation at universities where supposedly 70% of students are all A average students. But through to every single problem that your child might have, we need to throw $1 at it and we need to do all those things. It's the feminization of our systems. And by that, and I don't care about the hate mail, don't give a shit, Senator Dave-Lodge@hotmail.com, I'll ignore it. But because what I mean is I'm not saying feminism is bad. What I'm saying is we went too far. Everything's become, how does someone feel? What's this going to be? And I'd be making the same claim if we gone too masculine and everything was, broken leg, walk it off.
Harden up.
Yeah. Right? So and we were there. That's where we were in sort of the 40s, 50s, 60s. Broken leg, walk it off. Right? So we needed to correct from being too masculine, but we've overdone it. So what happens now is no one wants to have the courage to say no, right? And it's, as you said about that mum, right? What mums will do for kids, they'll die for their kids.
That's right.
So when you take a whole bunch of women to the mums and you show them a problem of what's happening to another kid, what do you think you're going to do? I don't care. Cancel the military budget. No trains. I don't care. People can walk to work. We need all the money for that kid, right? Now, this is one of the great sort of, I can't remember the exact story, but it comes up when you do first year, or it did when I did it, first year, first semester ethics in law, is there's a story of this society that's perfect. Everyone is happy in the whole society. Everyone's got a job they love. Everyone has plenty of money. Everything is beautiful, but it comes at the cost of they need to keep this one child locked away in this dungeon. And if someone goes and lets the child out of the dungeon, it will destroy utopia, right? So in other words, the situation is creating a discussion for you is, do you, we can't have a child in a dungeon. It's like, yeah, but hang on. The rest of society, millions of people are living in utopia. And you start to, so there's no right and wrong answer. It gets thrown up for everyone in the room to start saying, well, would you go and let the kid out of the dungeon? You'll destroy utopia. So it gets to the point here is, sadly, regrettably, in life, we simply don't have enough money to fund every single issue that tugs at a heartstring. At some point, you've got to have a cutoff. And you've got to say, this is what we can afford. These are the situations we know that are very difficult for families, and what we can do at best is ease that. We can't cure that. But that's the way it goes. And we've lost our ability to do that. We've lost our ability to have discipline, fiscal discipline, actual discipline.
Absolutely.
So it's at the point where I'd like to see someone stand up and just say, we can't afford this.
That's right. So, and the reason we kind of delved into that rabbit hole, and there's a few more I want to go through.
Well, this is one of the key platforms for a party.
But that's right. It's a key platform. So at the moment, in terms of policy,
and by the way, Tone, it was a weave.
That's right. In terms of policy, it's a target-rich environment, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's population, there's welfare, social policy, fiscal repair. More broadly on the economy, there's tax reform, cost of living. Now, someone, please define a policy or an agenda that even remotely looks like tax reform. Give me an incentive to go and work a few more hours on the side, on a side gig, doing some bookkeeping for someone without getting slugged 48%.
Yeah,
really?
This is the issue.
Come on.
In fact, Leith Van Onselen from Macro Business was talking about one of our issues with our lack of skill, like our skill shortage, but how we disincentivize the retired from work. And they said in New Zealand, for example, everyone gets a pension. So it doesn't matter if you work if you're after a certain age. Where here we turn around and it's one of the issues we have. So instead of saying to someone that's 67, you can do 15 hours a week, you go, but you'll lose your pension. It's a silly way to look at it. The other thing too that I think,
because what are they going to do with that 15 hours?
They're going to spend the money they make.
Oh, bloody hell.
It'll go through the economy, which is, we love a good weave. So off the back of that, for me, it's one of the things where everyone looks at housing, and there are a lot of people in big houses that don't want to sell because if they move and what's left over, they'll lose the pension, either full or part. To me, that makes no sense. For a figure, you're in Sydney with a $2 million home and you're entitled to a pension, right? assuming you have nothing else, just base. So $2 million home, you get the pension. If they sell up and they buy $1 million townhouse on the coast, somewhere they'd like to live, and now they've got $1 million cash, we'll take the pension off them. But we get nothing out of it while it's tied up in the property. So don't you want that property on the market for a family to move into and turn around and incentivize them to go, there's $1 million can be driven through the economy instead of tied up in that house. But we don't do it. To me, I'd love to say that if you sell your primary place of residence and you're retired, so not young, so it's not just everyone, but you're at retirement age, your primary place of residence, the leftover money invested will pay no tax on the income generated to that amount. So say it's 500,000 left over, you've got to nominate and allocate. Say you're getting 5% a year, that's 25 grand tax free on that 500,000. Now, if it grows and you save 515, so you save 15 of it and you pull 10 out, well, the next year, 515 at 5%, you'll pay tax on the 15, whatever that 15 generated, right?
The incremental.
Because again, what's going to happen? They're going to buy a new car, a camper van. They're going to do things. It's going to go through the economy where at the moment it's tied up sitting in that non-liquid asset.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my weave. Back into policy.
Again, another target-rich area, right? Economic tax reform, energy and climate. You could speak to the cows come home, right? There needs to be something done about that. And then another one that One Nation could step into is free speech, right? Because
Bill of Rights. Time for a Bill of Rights. We've discussed this.
We're going. Have you seen some of the stuff that's going on in Australia, like recently in Australia? Like the
ridiculous.
States. Queensland yesterday announced these anti-Semitism laws.
Yeah. No.
People can't have an opinion because they can get hauled off.
No.
Like, did you read about the one where?
I don't want any of it.
You read about the one where there was, I think, an autistic worker of some sort, right? Did a pocket dial, called someone who was of Jewish background. They thought they were being threatened, but it was a pocket dial, right? And she ended up getting arrested.
Yeah. To me, these laws, you and I have said before, I don't want the Nazi salute banned, right? And for everyone out there thinking I'm going to join and I want to start, goose-stepping down the street, no, I want to be able to clearly say to my son, you see the 50 fuckwits over there with their right hand raised out at 45 degrees in their black outfits? They're dressed like that and acting like that because they think their skin colour makes them better than everyone else. Now, you're caramel, little man. Stay away from fuckwits like that. That's the wrong way to think. But driving it underground, like in Australia, we're starting to arrest people for what they say.
I know.
Like, it's insane. Unless you incite violence, that's the only thing.
I get it.
And that's it.
I get it. But even with the
I think that's going to be a big one because I think even the Greens are starting to realise that, oh, hang on, because the Greens are very vociferous and controversial.
I know, but they've got to realise the shoe's on the other.
That's right. This could kill the Greens.
Ways. It works both ways, right?
So they should be vehemently opposed to it.
Absolutely, like any type of censoring, right? And again, but you made someone upset. You made them feel insecure, right?
It's like, who gives a fuck? So what do you think happens when you make bald jokes? Now, it doesn't worry me. I make bald. But in all honesty, if we're going to take that approach, because it's immutable, right? So if we're saying no, because what you're doing is you're having a go at them specifically based on their immutable characteristics. Well, male pattern baldness, a hairy back, a big nose. Where are you going to stop? Oh, someone called me Big Ears officer. Well, listen here, wingnut. Like, let's get back to, like, seriously, learn to be offended. And actually, once you learn to be offended, you'll very rarely be offended.
Yeah.
Because you realize who gives a fuck what that idiot thinks.
I know.
This is not going to get monetized.
Yeah, I know. So I think, Dave, clearly there's a massive opportunity for One Nation, right? And I can absolutely understand and see the appeal as to why they've just got traction now, because people are done.
Well,
people are done with the
I'll be up front. I'm going to vote One Nation. I voted Labor when I was younger. I was the back end of just voted the Hawke-Keating era, which to my opinion in Australia is still one of the best leadership eras. Then I voted Coalition for a long time because then you become a business owner and you realise that, spending other people's money, which becomes your money, is not the best way to run a society within reason. And I'm at the point, and so is the Mauritian Queen. She said she's voting One Nation, right? So, and it's for us, or for me, I haven't deep dived with her, so I won't put words in her mouth. But for me, it's a protest. It's like you're just not listening.
That's right. And that's what I mean. Because and then what's going to happen, Dave, there's going to be this massive protest vote. And then I can hear them already, Dave. All the dumb asses on the left and potentially the far left are going, oh, you're all racist, you're all dumb.
Yeah, we'll come around to my house. I'll show you the skin color of my other half and my son.
But the thing is, they don't understand that the reason why Trump got in 2017 was there's a cohort of people who thought they got left behind, right?
And the big parties aren't listening.
And I thought I didn't realize it was going to come to Australia, but it has. Right? People are jack of it.
Yeah,
they're done with it, and actually want to slap both of them around, saying get your shit sorted out. But I can't see myself voting for them unless they can actually deliver a policy platform that looks and smells what I feel like. But then if I say that...
Which makes sense, right? But that's sensible voting. But for me, it's a protest.
I know, and I get that. But for me, then I'm thinking, Dave, if I'm actually looking for some of the things that we've spoken about, and I'm talking centre, down the line, rational, well thought out things around population, energy, tax reform, the economy, or housing, all of that. No, there's no party that offers that.
No.
So therefore, who do I vote for? Garbage vote? Independent?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Where's Fred Nile when you need him?
That's right.
But this is, and part of it too, is it's not like you and I have touched on 3 or 4 really big things, but it's still even deeper than that. Like people have even are sick of even the way our school system runs. Right? They don't want some of the drivel that's being taught to kids. They want math, English, financial literacy, sciences, right? They don't want every kid to be told to go to university. They don't want the tax bill of funding every kid at uni, and they don't want their kid in debt forever and a day because they did a useless Bachelor of Circus Arts at Swinburne University. So there's just so much going on, and that's why I think you're seeing in a country like Australia where most people are pretty apathetic to politics. You and I are just 2 fucking nerds. Most people are pretty apathetic. I've been speaking to people the last 2 weeks that are 28, 32 years of age that didn't give a shit about politics even 12 months ago and will now talk energy policy, will now talk population. I really like that. I'm really impressed with that. And I hope the politicians pick that one up. But there's just so much. It's 30 or 40 years of the wrong direction. And you can finger point to Gillard on the NDIS. You can finger point to ScoMo on becoming king of everything. Like you can point, but the point is it's been both sides.
It has. And this is what, and but if I just touch back on a point I said earlier, I only hope that the people in One Nation, which is effectively Pauline, Malcolm Roberts, a couple others, Barnaby, I don't fully believe that they understand the opportunity that presents at their feet, right?
No, I don't think they do either. Or they'd already be out talking.
Of policies, right? And I'd actually tackle the elephant in the room. For too long, we've been labelled anti-migration. We've been labelled racists, right? What we are about is population, energy, this, that, and the other, because there's been multiple generations now of Australian kids who have been left behind.
I tell you what it's unlike me to be saying this. I tell you what the ground is getting fertile for, a republic, because within that you can have sweeping changes. You can create a Bill of Rights. You can have your law and order. You can redo your foreign policy. You can do your energy policy. You can literally under that old system we're moving away from in totality. And within that, if you want to intertwine it, you can say, you see the Union Jack in the top left corner, we're going to have a conversation about a unified flag. And that's not to say, let's not pretend that British colonialism was a terrible thing. There were bad parts to it, 100% there were. But really, the reason why you've got free speech, private property rights, rule of law, the vote, you need to think through those things. But it doesn't mean we can't have a conversation about, okay, instead of raising kids from birth born in Sydney 15 years ago to hate the country because they're black, how about we just have a nice conversation? No, you're Australian. I'm Australian. You see the flag up there? It's both Indigenous. It's got the Southern Cross. It represents us all. Stop your whinging and bitching. Teach your history about what happened 250 years ago, but it's time for a victim mentality instead of a victim mentality.
I get it, Dave. So it's going to be interesting times, Dave. So when was the last election? 25?
Last
was
year,
it May 25?
We did an episode. So we've got basically got 2 years to go. Yeah. But the way it's going, the problem he's got, any politician's got, no one wants to be holding the wheel with everything rising.
Well, and at the moment,
and they're talking 25%, potential 25% energy cost increases.
Yeah. So the thing is that they came in at the top of the cycle. They managed to back down they did manage to back down. The economy came back down in terms of rates. Inflation got under control, but now they're on the way back up again.
The trouble is they're spending like drunken sailors.
They need to rein it in.
Yeah.
Right? Because the
trouble is they can't because that's their base.
That's right. But really?
It never used to be like there used to be a base of welfare within Labor, but Labor's predominance used to be working class.
Mm.
And what happens, they've moved away from that.
I know. So I think it's actually going to be a really interesting time in terms of Australian politics. And I think both the LNP are a rabble. Labor on the other side are a bit clueless at the moment. They're just not listening. They're just not responding to the issues that people are talking about. It's radio silence, unless they're the smartest guys in the room, which I doubt. But I actually think it's really interesting. And as I said earlier, if they can get their shit together, that other party, that third party or that coalition of parties, whoever comes together with a coherent set of policies and a leader and maybe 2 or 3 senior people who can speak that narrative and kind of start like a soft rebrand of One Nation, they're going to cut through and get people in the lower house.
And it's now or never.
That's right.
They won't get another opportunity for 50 or 100 years because at some point the other parties will wake up and will start to hammer home what we've discussed and will start to implement what we've discussed, and then you're done for. Because whoever gets it done, because the other thing that I think politicians get wrong is, we all like a budget that helps us. But generally speaking, if over 5-10 years we're seeing progress and we believe in the future for our kids and things are going, well, you'll wear a few costs here and there to yourself. Right? You go, you know what, overall things are going really well. But it's not. And they're doubling and tripling down on some of their policies. And that's the big concern, right? Again, we can all be wrong. We can go, we want policy A, B, and C. And you find out A goes off like a flyer. B, it's not too bad, but not as good as what you thought. C's failing. Well, turn around and go, we got it wrong.
Cut it and shut it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But that's both sides of politics.
Absolutely.
I honestly can never think of one time I've ever seen anyone in politics, with the exception of once a month ago, and I'll mention who, that has ever said, we got it wrong. And I'm talking like, no, we got that policy wrong, we're going to change it. Not Kamala Harris type an election. Oh, there's a few things. No, we stuffed up. And the one that I've seen was Friedrich Merz, the German chancellor, a month ago goes, it was a strategic mistake to shut down our nuclear reactors.
Yeah.
And he should have said more, but that was enough admission that, unicorns aren't working, are they, mate?
I know.
So
Dave, interesting times in the Australian political landscape for us the next couple of years. What do I always say here?
You have a right to be wrong.
See you, mate.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and we hope you enjoyed it. Like us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.